India's GDP is set to grow at -10% this year. Bangladesh is performing better than India on many development indexes. The words growth and development are not new to us. Every day we come across thousands of news like these talking about growth and development. They sound similar to a common man, but do they really mean the same? Hello and welcome back to this course on Fundamentals of Human Geography. I am your host Abhilash Sundaram, and in this video we'll discuss human development. Timestamping has been provided in the description box below, so let's get into it. But before we get into the differences, one similarity between growth and development is that both of them refer to changes over a period of time. So what's the difference? Growth for a nation or an individual means economic growth. For many years it was considered that bigger the economy of a country, the more developed that country is. Second, growth is a quantitative concept, which means it can be measured. For example, if population of any city, say Mumbai, has grown, it can be measured very easily. Third, growth is a value neutral concept, which means it can be either positive or negative. A great indicator for economic growth of a country can be GDP. Some of the examples of growth can be: first, increase in the food production in a year, which can be measured in tons. Second, growth of road network in a country. Now development. Development is a much wider concept than growth. The concept of human development was first introduced by Dr. Mehboob Haq. According to him, human development is a development that enlarges people's choices and improves their lives. Development is a qualitative concept, which means it is very difficult to measure because it looks at multiple indicators like life expectancy, literacy levels, freedoms enjoyed by people, and many more. Development is also a value positive concept, meaning it can only take place when there is an addition or improvement in the existing conditions. Some examples of development are increasing levels of literacy in a country, reduction in poverty levels, or even reduction in pollution levels in a city like Delhi. In conclusion, remember this: for development to happen, growth must take place, but the reverse is not true. That means growth can take place without development. Unfortunately for us, India is a great example of that. Every year, politicians especially like to brag about India as the fastest growing economy in the world. But the reality is, unemployment rates are high, poor educational standards, one of the highest poverty levels in the world, agricultural crisis, gender inequality, and high crime rates, and frankly speaking, many more. The whole point is that the quality of life and the freedoms enjoyed by people and the opportunities they have are important aspects of development, and it's not just the GDP that matters. These ideas were developed for the first time by the works of Pakistani economist Mehboob Haq and Indian economist Amartya Sen. Basic goal of human development is to create conditions where people can live meaningful lives with some purpose. Meaningful life here means leading a long and healthy life, being able to gain knowledge, to develop oneself fully, and having enough means to live a decent life. But very often people lack the capability and freedom to make even the most basic choices. This may be due to discrimination, poverty, and inefficiency of institutions. And that's why it's important to increase the capabilities of people, to enlarge their choices. And one of the easiest ways is through education. And isn't that what we're doing? Because education gives you the power to not only come out of the cycle of poverty, but also to become doctors, engineers, IAS officers, and who knows, maybe even Prime Minister of India. Now let's look at 4 pillars supporting human development, which are equity, sustainability, productivity, and empowerment. First is equity. Equity refers to equal opportunities to everyone, irrespective of their gender, income, caste, color, and other reasons. Sustainability means continuity in the availability of opportunities, and that's why resources must be used keeping in mind the needs of the future generation. For instance, if we don't take an action now against climate change and reduce our carbon emissions significantly, generations to come will suffer at the hand of nature. Third is productivity. Productivity here means human labor productivity. This can be increased by capacity building of people, which can be done through investments in the field of education and health. And one of the great works in the field of education is being done by Delhi's Chief Minister. Fourth is empowerment. Empowerment means giving power to people to make their own choices. Such power comes from capabilities and freedom. For the next topic, I want you all to open your books. So let's get into it. So let's quickly go through and look at the 4 approaches to human development. First is income approach. This is one of the oldest approaches. This basically says that higher the level of income, higher is the freedom enjoyed by people, and hence higher is the human development. Moving on, second, welfare approach. This approach argues for higher government expenditures to increase the level of human development and treats people as just receivers of benefits. Third, basic needs approach. Here the focus is just on the basic needs of people like health, education, food, water supply, sanitation and housing, and all the other human needs are ignored. Last one is capability approach. This approach is associated with Professor Amartya Sen, and it advocates building human capabilities in the areas of health, education and access to resources to increase the levels of human development. Now that we have talked so much about human development, but how exactly do we measure it? For that, UNHDI or Human Development Index ranks the countries and gives them a score between 0 and 1 on the basis of 3 dimensions: health, education and access to resources. Health is assessed by life expectancy, education by gross enrollment ratio and literacy rates, and access to resources in terms of purchasing power parity. So higher the score on HDI, higher is the level of human development. HDI measures attainments in human development, but what about the shortfalls? If you look closely, HDI fails to take into account poverty, inequality and gender discrimination. For those reasons, we have Human Poverty Index, and often Human Poverty Index is more revealing than Human Development Index. Now let's look at international comparison of countries according to 2019 HDI rankings, which grouped countries into 4 categories based on HDI scores. So first is countries with very high human development. They have a score of more than 0.8. Norway, Australia, Switzerland, Singapore almost always top the list. Then we have countries with high level of human development with scores between 0.7 and 0.8. Notice the pattern. Many of these countries with very high and high level of human development have been former imperial powers. For example, Britishers colonized India, and that is one of the reasons why UK is so wealthy. Second is degree of social diversity in these countries is also not very high. And finally, most of these countries are located in Europe. So moving on to the countries with medium level of human development. They have a score between 0.55 and 0.7. These countries emerged after World War II, and they have a higher social diversity. India is a great example of this category. Lastly, countries below 0.55 record low levels of human development. Most of these countries have been going through political or social instability in the form of civil wars, famines, or high disease incidents. For instance, Syria has been going through a civil war for the last 10 years. So in a nutshell, we've learned to improve human development in India or any other country, government expenditure on social sectors and freedoms enjoyed by people must increase, and access to resources must be equitable. I hope this video gave you a fresh perspective, and if you have a question or like the video, let me know in the comment section below. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.